I'm sorry, I just came from the ale. I fasted the whole day. I didn't eat yet, so it'll be short and sweet. And I hope you'll be able to pay attention. So everyone knows the last Farbrengen of Kinus HaShluchim, Tovshin and Beis, Sato, the last Farbrengen of Kinus HaShluchim. And everyone knows the shturim that Sikha made in the whole world. That the Rebbe said, L'shenis, Meiridike L'shenis. That we are in Adnut Kufe, this time of Avedis HaShlichas. And now the Shlichas is, and now the Shlichas is that the entire work, as the Rebbe said, Lehovi L'meisa Mashiach, the entire work of Shlichus is to prepare the world, to prepare the Yidden, the entire world to Mashiach. That the Shar, the entire Aveda of Shlichus goes through. And then there was something which is really shocking and a surprise. And for years I was thinking about it. How come that after this huge revolution, that we are now on a new tkufa, and the entire Aveda Shlichus this time of the way it was till now, and it's starting now a new level. Something on? Here, that Michael. Okay, fine. So the question is, at the end of the Sikha, I'm sure every one of you is familiar with that Sikha, especially here, right? So when you look at the end of the Sikha, what was the last punchline of the Sikha? That the Rebbe said, Zusammen mit Shleimut b'Avedas HaShlichas, together with the shleimus of that work of shlichus, we have immediately the shleimus and nesuin, because the entire Sikha talks about the shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka. And then the Rebbe says that to pale the entire nekudah from Mashiach would be the achlota teva, to study the Lekutei Torah and Teroer from the beginning till the end, every Shabbos, to be Messiah, just like Limud HaRambam, that we learn Rambam the whole year, throughout the year, we should learn also Lekutei Torah and Teroer. And the Rebbe says that this, when you learn Lekutei Torah and Teroer, does noch mehr memaher dam shocher bepeil. After the entire Sikha of Shlichus, and the entire work of Shlichus now is to bring the world to prepare for Mashiach. And that's the shar of all the work of Shlichus. At the end, what was the last thing, the last achlota that the Rebbe said, the peil mamish eiroe from that thing was, what was the eiroe bepeil mamish of the whole thing? And what would be memaher, the amshocha, of bringing Mashiach is to study, to learn Teroer and Lekutei Torah. And for many years I was asking myself, this looks totally not in the whole signet of the entire Sikha. The entire Sikha is revolutionizing everything, and it's a whole new world. And all of a sudden, what's the bottom line? You should learn Teroer and Lekutei Torah. That's something that the Rebbe said at Tov Shechofei. And the Rebbe said it throughout the years. How could it be that when we stand now at the final moments, the last Farbrengen of Kinus HaShluchim, and Lahovi L'meisa Mashiach, and everything, and what is the end? What is the bottom line? What is it? What will Bushachlot will be memayer? And the Rebbe said the Loshen is das noch mehr memayer the amshocha bepeil. What will bring bepeil Mashiach dolamato is learning Torah and Lekutei Torah. How is it connected? Why would that be the most important thing after all of this? So in order to b'derech hefsher to explain it, you all know the story that the Rebbe said many, many times, that once, there is some places that said the Rebbe Marash asked, some places it says that Chassidim asked. That they asked the Tzemach Tzedek that the Alter Rebbe made a kates. The Alter Rebbe writes that there is a kates for the year Tov Kuv Zayin. And they came to the Tzemach Tzedek and they said, what happened with the kates? Moshiach supposed to come Tov Kuv Zayin, what happened? So the Tzemach Tzedek answered, what do you mean? Tov Kuv Zayin was printed, the Teroer, the Lokutotere, within a few years between each other. And that's the case. So at some place it said the Reb Marash, some place the Chassidim said, but we need Mashiach b'Poel. So the Rebbe always spoke, most of the times he spoke about the second part, what the Rebbe Marash or the Chassidim who said, but we want Mashiach b'Poel, not the Teroer. But in Shabbos Mishpotim Tov Shin Chavov, when the Rebbe spoke about that story, this is the Sikha which the Rebbe spoke about learning Tanya on the radio. This was the first year, the completion of the first year of learning Tanya on the radio. And the Sikha became later part of the famous Sikha in Parshas Neach, in Kudas Sikhas Chelek Tezvov in Parshas Neach, the famous Sikha about Parshas Neach, but it says about the Zelle says about Shnas Shesh Me'eh Shana, when it gets to the revelation of Pnimiyus HaTorah, the revelation of Chochmas HaTeva, of science, that those two together, there explains that there will be opening the Rubis HaShamayim, which is the Pnimiyus HaTorah. There will be opening also the Tehem swords from science, and together, La'alo b'shvi'o, as the Rebbe says in the Sikha, it will help the world to be prepared to be nis'ale in the Elef HaShvi. And the famous Sikha, the Rebbe talks about it, the Rebbe brings that there b'kitzer. But in the Anocher, Mishpotim Tov Shechavov, the Rebbe speaks about what is the Likutei Torah and Teroer. So the Rebbe says like this, that even though the person who asked the question maybe didn't understand what Likutei Torah really is all about, but the Tzemach Tzedek, he knew very well what the Likutei Torah is all about. The Rebbe says, he knew it letachlisei. And the Rebbe says, what is Likutei Torah? Why the Tzemach Tzedek? The Tzemach Tzedek is not making jokes. The Tzemach Tzedek says that the Alter Rebbe's case was Tov Kuv Zayin, and the Tzemach Tzedek said, what was the case? That the Likutei Torah was printed, it's not a gleichwertel, it's not a tzachos, it's a real thing. And the Rebbe explains in that Sikha Mishpotim Chavov, the Rebbe said, what did that mean? Why is that Likutei Torah so important? Because Likutei Torah is the Giluy Mashiach beruchnius. And when you learn Likutei Torah, you bring the Mashiach begashmis. What does that mean? And here I think is an nekuda that's very important to emphasize. That most people who speak about Mashiach don't even understand the whole foundation. What's the shaykhs of Chassidus Chabad with Mashiach? What's the shaykhs of the Rebbe with Mashiach? What's the shaykhs of Arizal with Mashiach? It's not like, why the Rebbe Mashiach? Because he's from Beis David and he's an einikel from David HaMelech. That's not the reason why the Rebbe is Mashiach. Of course, the Rebbe said those Lashenes, even in Bosel Ganit of Shinit Aleph, the Rebbe was like from Beis David, Nemikuin and Alinyonim. But what is the Yesed? What is the foundation of it? And that's why many questions that come around that people don't understand the Yesedis of Chassidus, and that Yesed of the connection between Mashiach and Chassidus Chabad. In that story from the Tzemach Tzedek, when the Tzemach Tzedek said that the Alter Rebbe made a case, and the Alter Rebbe meant the printing of the Likutei Torah, in those story is the entire foundation of the connection. Who are we, Chassidei Chabad, and why is the Yin of Mashiach connected to us? Why is Likutei Torah the Giluy HaMashiach beruchnius? What does that mean? What makes the Likutei Torah? Likutei Torah is a very nice book, and there's a lot of nice things printed there. But what makes the Likutei Torah to be the Giluy HaMashiach beruchnius? And the Rebbe says in the Sikha and in Beis that after all the Sikha and after all this Tamis HaShlichus, what will be Mamshich B'Peil Nochmer Memayr Dem Shocha B'Peil of the Giluy HaMashiach in the world is if you learn Likutei Torah and Teroer and you finish it every year. What's the connection? So some of you probably learned Kunas Inyonos Shoteres Chassidus. If you haven't learned, you should learn. Probably there is Shiur in that sefer, in that Cheveres. And maybe you heard that when the Sefer Erchim was printed, so Rabbi Yoske prepared a movie, an introduction to Chassidus, to Sefer Erchim. And this introduction, this movie of Rabbi Yoske, was the essence of all of his shiurim. Almost like the way Rabbi Yoske understood Chassidus Chabad. And he gave it into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe answered that he has in mind the siches from Itaskis of Chadosha, which is the siches from them was made the Kunzinosh Tez Chassidus. Of course, not only Itaskis, there was a Hemshech in Yud Shvat and a few books later. So Rabbi Yoske went out, he took out the movie from the Maskirus and he put it on a table in 770 and he left. And a Bacher picked it up. And this movie was for years, even when I was a Bacher, everyone had a copy of this movie. This movie was the foundation of understanding Chassidus. But the Rebbe told them that he wants them to make the Kuntas of Chassidus based on the Seres Tov Shechavov, for Itaskis. So Rabbi Yoske worked on it, and then finally, when the Sefer Erchim was printed, the Rebbe said to print it at the end of the book, not in the beginning, because the Sefer Erchim is all the Chassidus of the Rebbeim, and that goes, the Rebbe's goes at the end. When the book was printed, Rabbi Krinsky was going to Boston, the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Krinsky. So the Rebbe said to him to take the book and give it to Rabbi Soloveitchik. Those of you know, Rabbi Soloveitchik was a famous Goyen, and he was he knew Chassidus Chabad. As when he was a little child, in his town, in Chaslavich, the Rov from the town was a Lubavitcher Chassid. I'm sorry, the Sheikhet from town was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and he was also Zeir Melamed. His father was the Rov, and he was teaching them Kultera in Chassidus Chabad and Tanya, and they were hiding it under the Gemaras. When his father would walk in, they would hide the Kultera under the Gemaras. So he had a deep avona in Chassidus Chabad. So the Rebbe said Rabbi Krinsky to bring the Sefer Erchim to him. When he brought the Sefer Erchim to Rabbi Soloveitchik, so Rabbi Krinsky was sitting there, and he was looking through the pages, going, and everything was familiar to him. And when he came to the Sikh of Chassidus, he said, "Oh, that is new. I need to study it." He said, "Leave me the book." And he called his son-in-law, and they were going through that for 2 days. And then Rabbi Krinsky came to say goodbye. He said to him, "Can you please ask the Rebbe to write on the old Shas what he wrote in Chassidus?" So anyway, going back to where I started, so in Chassidus, right in the beginning, there is what is the chadosho of Chassidus Chabad? The Chassidus Chabad is given by the Alter Rebbe, what's revealed by the Alter Rebbe, which the Alter Rebbe was neshomo chadosha. And then there is a aura there, of the word neshomo chadosha. And the aura sends you to the kutetera shir hashirim. Because most people have no understanding what the word neshama chadosha means. Most people think neshama chadosha means a neshama that never came begilgal. That's how most people think of neshama chadosha. But that's not true. And there's a very famous story. Rabbi Yoske had a debate with someone about this. Rabbi Yoske said that this is not neshama chadosha. It's much more bigger than, deeper than that. So the other guy wrote to the Rebbe, who is right. The other guy said, neshama chadosha means it didn't come begilgal. And Rebbe said, no, it can be. There must be what the Alter Rebbe said in Kulutei Shir Hashirim. So he wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to the other guy, "It's not your business of the neshamas from the Rabbeim. It's not your business. What's the meaning of it?" But later, when it came to Kunshon Tezach Chassidus, in the Aure, the Rebbe already spoke about in Chayel Lamed Gimel, as I'll say in a few minutes, that so Rabbi Yoske wrote the Aure, the Neshama chadosho is Re'ei leKulutei Shir Hashirim. And when you look in Kutei Shir Hashirim, you see there's a whole bill what the Alter Rebbe said what is the Neshama Chadosha. In order to understand that, I'll just give a little introduction, and that is that the Arizal said, and the Alter Rebbe brings it many times in Kutei, and then the Rebbe brings it many times in the Siches, that there are two kinds of revelations in the world. To give an introduction just in 2 words, everyone who learned Chassidus Chabad in this room knows that there are 10 spheres. Everyone knows that there is the musag of Keser, which is above the Chochmah. In Keser, we have two dargas, right? Atik and Arich. Atik and Arich. Atik is netak, which is away from this world, which is the concept of Atik is the concept of Tainug, and Arich is the concept of Rotzen, which has, so these two, Tainug and Rotzen, pleasure and will, are the foundation of everything. Because why do you want to learn something with your chokhmah? Because you want to do it. Why do you want to do it? Because you have pleasure to do it. That's why the Gemara says, when you learn something that you have pleasure in it, then that learning, then your chokhmah will work. If you don't like it, if you're being forced to learn it, your head will not work. So in order for chokhmah to start working, you need to have first tainug, and then rotzen. If you have tainug, if you have pleasure to do it, you'll have a rotzen to do, you'll have a will to do it, and then your head will start working. So the same thing in the spheres. We have the 10 spheres, but above chokhmah before chokhmah comes Atik and Arich. Atik is tainug, and Arich is rotzen. So that are the two top things that there is above 10 spheres. In Atik itself, in tainug itself, in every darga that there is always the 10 spheres in that darga. So in Atik itself, there is also 10 spheres. Within Atik, there's 10 spheres. There is a Gimel Rishenis, which is Chochmah Bin Adas of Atik. Then there is the Midas of Atik, the Chesed Gvura Tiferes. So in Atik itself, we have two dargas. We have Pnimiyus Atik and Chitzenius Atik. So is that clear what I'm talking about, Atik? There's Tainug. In Tainug itself, there is the Pnimiyus Tainug and the Chitzenius Tainug. There is the Seichel of Atik and the Midas of Atik. Now, what is the main chiluk between Chochmah Bin Adas and Midas? The Midas are revealed to others. If you love something, if you're afraid of something, it's revealed to the outside of you. But what's happening in your brain, nobody knows. Seichel is la'atzmai. So that's the chiluk between Pnimiyus Atik and Chitzenius Atik. That I'm going to speak about it, I want you to understand just the basics, what it means. So there is in Tainug itself, in pleasure itself, there is a Pnimiyus of pleasure, the inner pleasure, which is the Chochmah Bin Adas of pleasure, and then there is the Midas of it. Okay, time. So the Arizal says, all the Giluy in Elam Hazeh, from Odom Rishon, including Matan Torah and Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni, everything that was Tanya Miroim, everything. All the Giluyim till Moshiach are all from Chitzenius Atik. When Moshiach comes, it'll be the Giluy of Pnimiyus Atik. So everything that was till Mashiach is all Chitzenius. When Mashiach comes, we'll start Pnimiyus Atik. Once the Rebbe spoke Chayelul Tov Shelamet Gimel, the Rebbe spoke all Verbringen. Everyone knows the famous saying from the Frierdiker Rebbe. What is the word Chay Elul? That Chayelul brought Chayus in Elul. The Rebbe asked the question, what does that mean? And you say Chay Elul, the Chay Elul being Chayus in Elul. So what happened before the Baal Shem Tov? What is the Hepech of Chay? The Hepech of Chay is Mavis, is death. So you want to say, the Rebbe says, how could you say that Moshe Rabbeinu and Matan Torah and Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni and all Tanya Miroim, all the tzaddikim, it's all in comparison to Chay Elul, it's like the Hepech HaChaim. How could you say such a thing? How is it possible to say that? So the Rebbe said the same question he could ask about the whole concept of Chassidus Chabad. How can we say that Chassidus started a new thing? So what happened before Chassidus? What happened in Matan Torah? So the Rebbe explained on that what I just said now. That the Arizal says that everything that happened before Mashiach is all from Chitzenius Atik, all from Rotzen. And only from Mashiach on will start Pnimiyus Atik. What does that mean, Giluy Pnimiyus Atik? The Meichin of Atik will be Nizgala. That means that the most hidden thing which exists, which is Atzmus, that is Giluy Atzmus. So when the Frierdiker Rebbe said that when the Alter Rebbe came to the Magid, and the Magid told the Alter Rebbe that the Baal Shem Tov told him that when he was born in Chay Elul, the Baal Shem Tov told him that he was a neshomo chadosho. What really it means a neshomo chadosho, as the Rebbe brings in Yonesh Chassidus and in Chayel Lamed Gimel, means that the Alter Rebbe's neshama is a neshama from Pnimiyus Atik. That means the first Giluy of Mashiach in the world was the Alter Rebbe. So that's what will happen. Moshiach will come. There will be a Giluy Pnimiyus Atik in the world, Giluy Atzmus. Is that Giluy started with the Alter Rebbe. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov said, that he couldn't find the Alter Rebbe's Neshama for 3 years. He was looking for it. They were hiding it from him. Why was they hiding it from him? Because that is the highest Giluy that there is. Normally, Pnimiyus Atik is La'atzmei, as the Gimel Yoshen is the Meichin of Atik. They're La'atzmei, so of course, that's the Giluy Atzmei. Atzmei is the Rotzen, this is the Rotzen Island before the 3 targets and Rotzen and so on. So the Rotzen Meshal Atzmei, this is the first Giluy. And what is that Giluy? That Giluy is Chassidus Chabad. When the Alter Rebbe's Neshama Chadosha came to the world, he was Megale Chassidus Chabad. In other words, Chassidus Chabad, as the Rebbe says in Mishpatim Tov Shechavov, that is the Giluy HaMashiach Beruchnius. Because everything starts with Chokhmah. In order to refine the world for Mashiach, we need to start with Giluy from Chokhmah for Mashiach, and then, as we Megale in the world, the Chokhmah of Mashiach, we come to Peil. So when people ask, what's the connection between why Chabad speaks about Mashiach all the time? Because the entire Chassidus Chabad is Mashiach. That's who we are. Why are we different than the rest of the world? There's a story in the Rishimus of Chassidim that the famous 2 Talmidim of the Maggid, the Pinchas Baal HaFloah, Rabbi Shmelke of Nikolsburg, they both came to the Maggid. They were the older Talmidim of the Maggid. And the Alter Rebbe was very young. He was from the youngest Talmid of the Maggid. So they came to the Maggid and asked him 2 questions. One question was a question in Kabbalah. And the second question was, they want to say, Ma ha-mehus shel ha-talmid shnei zalman. They want to understand what's the Alter Rebbe story? Who is he? So the Maggid said, the shaila in the Kabbalah he could answer, but the shaila of the Alter Rebbe's mehus he cannot answer them. It was a secret from the Talmidei HaMaggid that they did not know who the Alter Rebbe is and why is he so big. So in other words, when you think about it, when we say that the Alter Rebbe is a Neshama Chadosha, it was a Neshama Chadosha as the beginning of Giluy of Pnimiyus Atik in the world, that means the Alter Rebbe is in a higher level than all the tzaddikim that were ever before him. For the Sichel Chayela mit Gimel is mashma that Baal Shem Tov was also a Neshama Chadosha. That's as mashma there. In Anochas B'La'ak they took it out, in the Teres Menachem, they took out that Loshen, but in the Anocha in Yiddish, it does say, the Rebbe says, neshomo chadoshes, on both, the Baal Shem Tov Magid, and it's mashma, it makes sense, because if the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidus, and if he was able to go to Gan Eden, to Eichel HaMashiach, and speak to Mashiach, and ask him, Moshe Kosimar, what does that mean he went there? He didn't climb on a ladder. He means he wasn't that dark. So it's mashma, the way I understood, because it's clearly, the Anocha, it says, but it must be Teres Menachem that took it out, because there's no mocker to it. No mocker beferish, but the Rebbe is the mocker. That, but no matter what, but we know that the Alter Rebbe is a Neshama Chadosha. That's for sure. That's documented. That's official. And when the Rebbe spoke, if you look into the Sichos of the Rebbe throughout the years, you'll see there are 2 things that the Rebbe keeps saying many, many times. Number 1, that Nekuda, that all the Giluyim in the world, what the Arizal said, are only from Chetzinis Atik, and only when Moshiach comes to stop Pnimiyus Atik. So that's how the Rebbe explains why Chassidus Chabad, why the Frierdiker Rebbe said that Chai Elul brings a Chais and Elul, because Legabe Pnimiyus Atik, Chetzinis Atik is considered dead. Mothers. Because the Giluyim which will be, therefore the Medrash says that all the Torah from Be'elam Hazeh is Hevel Legabe Terosa Shel Mashiach. Why is it Hevel? It's Torah, Matan Torah. Because the Giluy from Pnimiyus Atik, Legabe Chetzinis Atik is considered Hevel Legabe Pnimiyus Atik. You all remember the Rebbe said in the Shar Fasicha, Chavches Nissen, as everything he did was Lehevel V'Lorik. So people were going crazy. Lehevel V'Lorik, how could the Rebbe say such a thing? That's exactly what the Medrash says. That everything, the Torah Be'elam Hazeh, Legabe Torah Mashiach is Hevel. That means the Rebbe said, till Mashiach doesn't come Be'Peil, till the Geulah Be'Peil, is all the dagas. The Rebbe said another sikha that there are many, many dagas in Pnimiyus Atik itself. Darga lefnim darga. So, going back to this question, that the reason the concept of Mashiach by us, by Chassidus Chabad, is because the Tanya and the Likutei Torah, this is the first Giluy of the Torah of Mashiach in the world. This will refine the world. Why would Chassidus Chabad bring Mashiach? Why you futza menesecho chutza? If you futza menesecho, you'll bring Mashiach. Why? Because it's just a ocus pocus. You learn Tanya, Mashiach comes. Because Tanya is the Geulah Mashiach. That is it. This is the Geulah Pnimiyus HaTorah, and that's why we see the kochos of Chassidus that changed each one of us. I'll just share a short story that for many, many years ago, that I verbringt about it. I was flying to Israel, and during that time, I was on the plane maybe 20 years ago or something. It was right after Pnimiyus HaTorah, and there was someone brought me a little booklet of from news from the house of one of the Geulah of the Geulah in Israel. They all learned from us. So this was Parshas Toldos. And this Geulah was he was Legabi Misnagdim, he was the Dev Shebegoyim, he was the best of them that could possibly be. He really brought down the entire hate against Chabad. He was against the Menuvel Yadua. He was against him and whatever. He really did good things. He had a meeting with Rabbi Yoske, and it went all the pictures all over, and it made a huge revolution in the brains of so many young people who were so hungry against Chassidus. It was a huge revolution. So there's the story there. This great Goyen, this Gadol, he was 102 already then. So he told a story. What was the story? That one of the famous Misnagdim Shegdolim said that the Kseis HaCheshen is a yeshiva. You all know what the Kseis is, right? I think the Rebbe said about the Bocher doesn't know the Kseis, right? So the Kseis HaCheshen was a Isha Maila, that he definitely did not feel a taste in kugel. He didn't feel a taste in kugel. He was such a Isha Maila, when he had kugel, he didn't feel the taste. So the Talmidim there was Parshas Toldos. So the Talmidim there said, said Parshas Toldos, the Yitzchak Avinu called Esav. What did he tell him? Aseli matamim kasher after. So Yitzchak Avinu did have a taste in a good piece of meat, right? So how do you say the Kseis HaCheshen didn't have a taste and Yitzchak Avinu did have a taste? They said, a good kasha. I said, no, what's the answer? He thinks. He said, no. Kan lifnei matan Torah, kan lacher matan Torah. So I verbringt the all Shabbos in the shul in Bnei Brak. According to this Gadol, if this is the case, they have to change the nusach in Shemon Esrei. What do we say in Shemon Esrei? Lekei Avrom, lekei Yitzchak, lekei Yankov, right? So if he thinks that Yitzchak Avinu was a fresser who had taste in kugel and the Kseis HaCheshen, they should change to lekei Kseis. Now, it's beyond embarrassing, because the fact that the Oves Hein and Amakova, it's not something that Chabad made it up. It's something for bringing in 770. The Oves Hein and Amakova is right from Medrash. And anybody who learned Tanya knows there are chapters and chapters about it in Tanya. Shekol Everim L'Kol Gdeishim. And the Alter Rebbe speaks in Tanya about Vaselim Matamim. I'm sure there are the Bochim here who know what the Alter Rebbe is about Matamim. What did the Alter Rebbe say about Matamim in Tanya? Right? What? Anybody knows? Vaselim Matam Od? Yeah. So there are two kinds of Avedas. Aveda from Tzaddik, Aveda from Baal Tshuva. There is Matamim Moshe Rabim. There is Matamim. There is Aveda for Tzaddikim, which is always like sweet. They always were good, always betachas hashlemus. Then there's Aveda from Behapech, to take something which was not good and to fix it and to make it tavlinim, make it tasty. So why no bocher in Lubavitch would ever even dream to think that Yitzchak Avinu, who is the Mekover, and Afeira Shel Yitzchak Munech Lefonai by the Akedah. I mean, this is right you have to be an Amoretz. You daven in the Machzer, you see what it says about Yitzchak Avinu. In Shachis, when you say before Vayi Achar, what it says about Yitzchak Avinu. to think of, so how could it be? Why a Bocher Lubavitch, a 13-year-old kid who learned Tanya, would never even dream to think about Rabbi Yitzchak? So it's not only because we learn Tanya. It's much more than that. Because the Alter Rebbe is neshomo, chadosho, is Pnimiyus Atik, it's a Giluy from Mashiach, it's a Giluy from the Heichal of Mashiach. So his teachings, which is Tanya and Torah, is a new system, a new understanding of Yiddishkeit. It's the deepest understanding. What the Rebbe said in Kudus Yom said, the Yechide. What do I mean Yechide? As the deepest understanding of Torah. And b'shas we learn Tanya, the Alter Rebbe picks us up. Because what is the inyan of a Rebbe? What is the inyan of the Rabbeim? The inyan of a Rebbe is, as we all know, the inyan from Mutza Mechaber, which means, as the famous Maimer in the Torah, the Alter Rebbe says on the Pasuk, V'zorati eschem beis Yisrael zera odom v'zera be'ema. There's a Pasuk in Shayad that the Alter Rebbe explains, V'zorati eschem beis Yisrael, that there are two kinds of neshomas. There's the neshomas of zera be'ema, which is all of us, and the neshomas of zera odom, which is the Rabbeim, the Tzadikim. What's the difference between a behema and a odom? The Alter Rebbe says, a behema only sees the earth, only sees the grass that she's going to eat. A odom could look up and think what's going on, who created the world. So most of the neshamas in the entire Elam Hazeh of Yidden are neshamas from Zera Behema. That we don't feel a lakus, we don't see a lakus. The Rabbeim are Zera Odom, the neshamas the Atzilis. But our Rabbeim are beyond neshamas the Atzilis, they are Pnimiyus Atik. And therefore their mission is to be a Memutza Mechaber. What is a Memutza Mechaber? As the Alter Rebbe, as the Chassidus explains, that's the Rebbe Rashab in Samach Vov and Nine Beis, that when you have a big barrel of beer, of wine, and you want to pour it a little cup, there's no way, you can't pour from a big barrel a little cup. So what do? You take a mashpech, you take a little, what's a mashpech? A funnel. And you pour from the wine from the barrel into the little cup. But it's the same wine. But it's through the mashpech. That's what a Rebbe is. The mission of a Rebbe is the Maimer Atet Tzaveh. The mission of a Rebbe is to elevate us from our level of Behemah, and we connect to the Rebbe, we go to a level of Adam. We go to a level that we could feel and see Lakus. So by us it's Bepshitas, that Yitzchak Avinu, who is a Mekover to Lakus, what is a Mekover? That Kol Everim, the Alter Rebbe says, or Yugdeshim, and they were like a vehicle to bring the Eibush, the Shechina, Dolamata, and they are a Mekover now to Lakus. Not they were a Mekover then. They are Mekover now to Lakus. The Dalad Ragla Mekover, the Vomit Yaakov and Rochel, they are the Mekover to Lakus. So would never dream on you that Chaz v'Sholem, Yitzchak Avinu, is not in the level of the K'tzois. The K'tzois would never in a million years come to the level of Yitzchak Avinu. And this all comes from Chassidus Chabad. And that's why when the Tzemach Tzedek said that the Alter Rebbe gave a kates, and the kates was Tovkov Zayin, and at that time the Teiroer and the Kudoter were printed, it's not like a Gleichwertel, it's not a Tzachos, it's real. The teachings of the Alter Rebbe, this is the teaching of Mashiach. This is the teaching of Pnimiyus Atik. That is the Giluy, what will be this Geulah in the world. And now we already have the beginning of it through the Chochmeh, which is the first level. So when we think about Mashiach, the Alter Rebbe was Mashiach, the Mittel Rebbe was Mashiach, the Tzemach Tzedek was Mashiach, every one of our Rabbeim was Mashiach. Every one of our Rabbeim added another sphere in the Pnimiyus Atik. And it came down from Chochmeh of the Pnimiyus Atik to Bina Pnimiyus Atik, and went all the way down. And the Rebbe, Sfira Samalchus, Elad HaKeser, his mission is to bring the Pnimiyus Atik in reality, in physicality. For example, the Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya. Came in Dallas Nissen Tovshim and Beis Shnas HaShmeinim. The Rebbe said he's going to give a gift to everybody who came to the Farbrengen. What is the gift? The Rebbe gave a Tanya. Why a Tanya? Why shouldn't the Rebbe give a sefer for the Rebbe? If the Rebbe doesn't want to give his own Maimer, but everyone knows how the Rebbe was connected to the Frierdiker Rebbe, right? The Sidereno, every Sikha, every word. So why not to give a Maimer from the Frierdiker Rebbe? Why to give a Tanya? Comes Tavshim Mem Daled, the Rebbe gives again a Tanya. Comes Tavshin Nun, it is Yud Shvat, the Rebbe gives again a Tanya. A boy Mishana, the seers for Rebbe, what the Rebbe gives a Tanya. Yeah, one time the Rebbe gave the Shluchim, Tavshim Mem Ches HaMaimer, of his own Maimer. But what is the Rebbe giving to the whole world? A Tanya. Comes Tavshin Nun Aleph, it is Kislev, again a Tanya. I have 4 Tanyas from the Rebbe. Why a Tanya? What was unique about the Tanya the Rebbe gave in Tavshim Mem Beis? As the Rebbe said in the Sikha, he gave a Tanya. Why was the Tanya so big? Because the Tanya had hundreds of pages of sharblads of every print of Tanya in every city in the world. That's why it was so big. What's the nekuda of printing Tanyas in every city? You want to make a Shiur in Tanya in Alaska, you bring a Tanya from New York and you give him a make a Shiur. Why do you have to print a Tanya in every city in Alaska? What's the point of it? What's the need of it? So the Rebbe said, gave a few biurim. One of them, the Rebbe said, they're just like New York, or let's say the years before in Vilna. Everyone knows that Tanya came from Vilna. It's a Shas from Vilna. Actually, my great-grandfather was a B'yana Chassid. He would not let in the Vilna Shas in his house. Because it's from Vilna, from the Goyans. Wouldn't let it in. But everyone knows there was a Shas, a Vilna Shas. The Tanya, the Rebbe Rasha printed, Dafri Samach, was a Tanya from Vilna. So what does that mean? The whole world knew that Vilna is a center of printing of Jewish books. It's a center of printing books. It's a center of culture, of Jewish culture, of Torah. The same thing, Kfar Chabad. Everyone knows there is a print, Yad HaChamisha in Kfar Chabad. Everyone knows Kfar Chabad prints Sidur and Kfar Chabad prints this. It's a center. Same thing now in New York. It's a center. The kochos is printing here. That means that this place became a center of spreading Yiddishkeit. The Rebbe wanted that every city in the world, the Rebbe said, should become that kind of a center. Not only that you bring a Tanya from New York to Alaska, but you print a Tanya in Alaska. You make Alaska a center of printing Tanyas. That becomes a center of spreading Chassidus. That means the Rebbe's mission is, the Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya. And the Rebbe's mission, of course, is to explain the Tanya with all the memorim that the Rebbe was teaching us, all the thousands of sichos in memorim. But in addition to this, as a miftzah, how do you bring Chassidus Chabad in the physical world, to bring it down? Because that's the Rebbe's mission, it's Sfiras HaMalchus, to bring Pnimiyus Atik in reality, in physical world. How you do it? When you print the Tanya physically, and there is on a sharblat that says that this Tanya is printed in Alaska. So the Balabat in Alaska, everyone takes a Tanya at home. This is printed by us. It's our Tanya. It makes it more real, more tangible. It makes it more belongs to that place. That's the Rebbe's mission. So this nekuda. So when you look on the Sikha, and the Rebbe speaks about the entire shturim of Kinas HaShluchim, and how this is already, the whole Sikha is about this, the Shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka, and how this is Shem Ma'am, the Yichud of Shem Ma'am, Shem Ban, how the Yichud of Guf and Neshama, and how this is the whole mission, the mission of Eliezer as a Shliach, and Eliezer is not an Eved, but he's a Shliach, and what is a Shliach has 2 dargas, that he has his own personality, and he's a bottle to the Mishaleach, but he has to do it in his own, also connected to the Nekuda B'Keach Atzmai. So when you go all of this, what is the end? You have to learn the Koter and Teroer. Why? Because in order for us to have the koyach, to actually bring those Nekudas of Pnimiyus Atik, of Chassidus Chabad in the world, we must be connected to the source. And by learning the Koter and Teroer, which is the foundation of Chassidus, all the Mamom, all the Rabbeim are based on that. When I was a bocher, I used to work in Tavshim Ebed. I used to work in Anochas Tmimim. I used to help Simon with the sichas, goyes, and all kinds of stuff that he needed. So I remember the first 3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, he was working on the Anocha. And when finally the Anocha was finished, what do you think he did on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? He was preparing the Kulotera and Teroer and the Eratera of the Parsha. Why? Because the first 2 sichas of the Rebbe were based on the Chassidische Parsha. So if you didn't prepare before the Verbringen, the Teroer and the Kulotera and the Eratera and the Tzemach Tzedek, you didn't understand really the 2 sichas. You couldn't be a chayzer if you didn't prepare before. You couldn't write the Anocha because you wouldn't understand what was the Chiddush that the Rebbe was Mechadesh in based on what the Tzemach Tzedek said. So all the Mamon of the Rabbeim are based on this foundation of Koter and Teroer. So the Koter and Teroer, I'll tell you a story from Alaska related to Chassidus. So 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I had the president of Shiur University, Rabbi Norman Lamb, came to my house for Shabbos. Tourists come a lot of times. So anyway, we were talking, and he was a knowledgeable person. He wrote a book of Chassidus, and so on. So we talk about the book. There's a famous book from Rabbi Soloveitchik. It's called Isha Halacha. And in this book, he's saying that what the Giluy between Brisk and Chabad. The Chassidus, that Brisk is Halacha, and Chabad is Regesh. Chassidus is Regesh. That's the Nikud of the whole book. So I said to Rabbi Lam, once when I was a young bocher, somebody gave me the book. It's a very short book. I read it through. I was in a debate with a bocher about it. So I was debating the bocher already then. So I remember that. So I tell them. So Rabbi Soloveitchik writes about halacha, about brisk, and then when he wants to explain what is the gadlus of halacha, he quotes the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. I said it's not fair. He comes and says that the Alter Rebbe and Chassidus Chabad is regesh, and when he wants to explain what halacha is, he quotes the Alter Rebbe. So he said to me, well, we have no choice. The Alter Rebbe created a new vocabulary. So even a non-Lubavitcher, a modern Orthodox Jew, he tells me the Alter Rebbe created a new vocabulary in Judaism. And there's no better vocabulary than the Alter Rebbe's. Then I found, 2 years ago, I got a call from the Rosh HaKollel here, one of the Rabbi Hamnik, that his great uncle, who is 98 years old, they found a reshima a letter he wrote to his scholar, that he saw the Rebbe. He was here Purim Tovshin Yud Aleph, the first Purim am Rebbe, 2 weeks after the Kabbalah Sanasiyas. And they found all the reshima from him. And he asked me who in Chabad would like to have it, because I did email Bereshit. He asked me if I want to have it, if I want to buy it. Because his son is a Rosh Hashiva, he needed a few dollars, whatever. So I sent my brother to see if it's real, if it's like worthwhile. And it was amazing, it was unbelievable. I mean, this reshima is like unbelievable. It's like shows what we always says about the Rabbeim, that the Rebbe is a atzmi, the Rebbe is a pnimi. What does the atzmi means? Chassidus saying, what is the atzmi? Atzmi means an etzem bilti mishtana. That is exactly the same. It's not changes. Atzmi is exactly what he is, that's what you see. There's no shinuim. So he says this, he writes to his scholar, he walked in Shabbos Mevochem Odo Tov Shadad. This is 2 weeks after Yud Shvat, before Purim Tov Shadad. And he walks in to 770, and he was a modern Orthodox guy from Shiur University. He walks in and he sees the first half of the Zelle upstairs, no tables, no chairs, people standing kvetched on top of each other. And this first half is empty. So he thinks to himself, what is it? Why is the first half empty and everyone is... So he pushes himself through to see what's there. The Rebbe is standing there. So the whole half of shul is empty. And in the back, he said there are maybe 100, 200 people, and he recognized some people. New York was small then. This is a doctor, a famous lawyer. He recognized people from Manhattan who had a connection with Chabad. And they're all pushing in. And the Rebbe stands there, and everyone, it's like 2 weeks after Kabbalah Sanasiyas. It's not like, that means the Rebbe is an atzmi. That immediately, as soon as the Rebbe was revealed himself as a Rebbe, it's everything that we know from our years, from the Mems, the way the Yachas with Chassidim and Rebbe, it's beautiful how he writes how he saw, right after the Rebbe came out, everyone jumped to the first part. He said, what's going on? He said, the Rebbe is going to have a Verbringen. And then he describes the Verbringen, he describes how he was amazed, how the Rebbe connected the first Sikha with the Maimer and the last Sikha. He was an intelligent person, he understood Yiddish. It's beautiful how he writes, and then he says how the Rebbe says L'chaim to everyone. He says it's a beautiful way to connect with individuals, even though the Rebbe doesn't talk to everyone, but he connects them with L'chaim. I mean, you could think about this is Tovshin Yud Aleph. He felt the Rebbe's malchus, the Mura Me'om and Amelech, the malchus from Rebbe. He right away saw that there is no, but with L'chaim, the Rebbe connects them. It's just amazing. Anyway, so he writes to his scholar, he explains what Chabad is. So as I told you a few times, he writes there, Rabbi Soloveitchik said that he learned all the philosophies of, all the philosophies of Kant and Aristotle and all, and there is no greater philosophy than the philosophy of Tanya. The Soloveitchik said it many times in his classes in Shiur University. So so this is the concept. Tanya Kurotera is a new revelation of Yiddishkeit. This is the essence of Torah that was not revealed till the Alter Rebbe. And therefore the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus changed the world. And therefore Chassidus Chabad, we are so different. Our Rabbeim are so different than any other Rebbe and Admur and Goen. They all, even the good of them, even the real tzaddikim of theirs, are only from Chitzenis Atik. Even the best of theirs. So the Al Rabbeim are in a different world together, and that's why we have a all different Ashkafas Elam, have all different way of understanding. So therefore, when the Rebbe says here in the Sikha that that in order to be Mamshich, noch mehr memair the Mashiach bepoel of the Geulah and Chassidus to bring Mashiach, ultimately it's by learning Chassidus. So in order for us, for all of us, to be and to understand what Chassidus Chabad is, to understand what a Rebbe is, what is a Memutza Mechaber, that the Rebbe picks us up and he brings us to the level of Odom, of Zera Odom, that we should be able to see Elokus. All of this is only possible if we learn Chassidus, if we understand Chassidus, and most importantly, is to watch a video from the Rebbe. Why it's important? Because when you learn a Maimer or a Sikha printed, and you don't watch the Rebbe's video, you don't feel that the Rebbe speaks to you. When you watch a video from the Rebbe gave such a koyach in the videos, and gave such a koyach in the pictures. So the famous Loshen Ksabat Kodesh the Rebbe wrote to a woman who had the sfeikes and weakness. The Rebbe wrote to her that when she is going to look in the Rebbe's picture, since the Rebbe is emes, he will look back. And this nekuda is definitely in the video, as the Rebbe said about bringing the rally from Tzivus Hashem in the summer of Toshin Aleph. The Rebbe said that to the children, that many children in the world are not here, and they cannot be part of this chayas that we say the psukim. And therefore the Rebbe said that since there are Lebedika pictures, there is pictures, the Rebbe called the video Lebedika picture, so when the kids will do bit chayas, then later all the kids in the world could watch it and be nisere from it. And as the Rebbe came out of the Zelle, each Mishulovin from the bookstore, he was standing there, he was going on a shlichus to Rosha. Many Anash used to go to Rosha at those days. So he was there, and the Rebbe said to him to go in to buy the video and bring that video from this rally. Before he leaves, he should take it to the Jewish people in Rosha, that they should see it. So we see clearly that the Rebbe gave a special koyach in the picture, in the video, and as the Rebbe says in Chav Cheshvan Tov Shel Lamed Aleph, the Rebbe says beferish that every chassid needs to have a special time where he locks himself up and he knows it's only him and the Rebbe. And at that time he learns a maimer or a sikha. There's also the famous sikha that the Rebbe said about voyenecho, reisus merecho, that's not enough when he learns a sikha and a sikha, but he has to remember to see the diukne shel Rabbi. So this is therefore when you watch a video of the Rebbe and you watch again and again, all verbringen, you start to feel the Rebbe is you, Rebbe, and you are his chassid. You pick up a special connection with the Rebbe. So Bochim who didn't have the schus to be before Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe is the only Rebbe who has videos from him. There's no videos from the Alter Rebbe, there's no videos from the Tzemach Tzedek, and if even for the Rebbe, there's no video he speaks. There's only one video that we see him. So it's very important for Bochim in order for us to be true Bochim of the Rebbe, and truly understand how we change the world for Mashiach, is only if we are connected and get what's the connection between Mashiach and Chassidus, who we are, and why we are so different. The Ata Bechatonu, the Neflinu Mikol Ha'amim, that all the Eden that you see, all the Yeshua Bacham that you see all over the world, none of them has the Pnimiyus Atik, the connection with Mashiach that we have, the connection with our new understanding of Torah, which will change the world. Yasher Koyach, and have a wonderful Verbringen.